Jaybird for NFM and the Combatant Nation. So this, of course, is our little gun show budget challenge purchase that we made recently. Took it out to the range, did a little review, so we know that we were inside of our budget of $362.50, as hopefully everybody remembers. If not, you can bounce back and check out those couple videos. But a new challenge has come along. A friend of mine and customer has a Savage Model B22. The little fancy bolt action mini sniper. So what we're going to do is because I haven't spent all of our budget on this rifle yet, we're going to go ahead and we're going to deck her out. And then we're going to put the two rifles head to head in an upcoming video and see if the Ruger 1022 with bolt-on, nothing fancy, modification, staying inside of our budget of $362.50, can it be competitive against a little bolt-action rimfire precision rifle? So stay tuned and let's go ahead and hit section 1. Okay, buddy. First and foremost, there's no ammo on the bench ever. That's a safety faux pas. Let's go ahead and get this magazine out, which of course is empty. And we know we're clear. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the old girl out of her wood stock. And we're going Magpul X22 MOE for the 1022 because it's a 22. Anyhow, so we're going to get her dressed up in flat dark earth and we'll move on from there. I don't know how much of this I can show on YouTube, but of course we're going to pop that barrel band. We're going to go ahead and remove that action screw right there. We're going to make sure our safety is in the center, so that the action will actually pass through the wood stock. And to hopefully not get any strikes, stay tuned, hold on. And just like that, through magic, we've got the action complete and out of the stock. I'm going to go get my Allen wrench. And I'm going to make sure that the barrel screws are good and tight. Because after all, this little Ruger 1022 is going to shoot against the Savage B22. So she's all good and snugged up. Now is a perfect excuse and perfect time to go ahead and do a real good cleaning because there's no stock to worry about. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick cleanup. And when I come back, we'll go ahead and we'll go over that Magpul stock. And we'll drop our receiver in it. And just like that, we're back. We got our lightweight X22 Magpul polymer stock. We went ahead and retrieved our action screw out of our wood stock. Action got cleaned up. Now we'll go ahead and we'll take that center on that safety and get her in the center. Now this is going to be quite a tight fit, so we're going to sink that back in there first so that everything lines up. Get her to drop all the way down into her new home. Go ahead and take that action screw, run it right back into the stock. Get her started in the Magpul stock. Grab us a driver of screws and we'll go ahead and run her down and get her snugged up in her new home. There, now we're down through the stock, and now we're going into the lug on the action, and we'll get her all nice and settled into her new home. We'll go good and tight, not ridiculous, like so. And just like that, our 1022 is now in her Magpul X22 stock. Go ahead and try to make sure I get the whole rifle in the picture. Good, clean looking, lightweight stock. But we're going to be shooting against a 22 long rifle precision bolt gun. I mentioned it before, there is 4 drilled and tapped holes in the receiver with plugs at the moment. Next, I'm going to go ahead and get those plugs out, and we'll get our scope rail put on. Remember, the short screws go in the front, otherwise the bolt will get locked up and you won't be able to put it to the rear. So stay tuned. We'll get her up in the Tipton gun vise on the bench, get those plugs out, and get that scope rail mounted on there. So we got our Weaver solid rail. We separated our long and our short screws. We got our short ones in the front. And we got our long ones in the back. Just to be on the safe side, that bolt cycles fully to the front and to the rear. And the Weaver package didn't give us a torque spec for the screws. Tiny little drop of blue Loctite. It is a 22. It's not a 30-06. So, and because these are regular straight screws, they're not Torx or Allens, we're just going to bump 30 inch-pounds. And we'll do it little by little, all the way across the rail. Because we don't want to go too carried away, but we don't want it loosening up either. So we'll work our way up and back. But we also definitely don't want to go and strip out a screw. So we'll get them run down. Figuring in for a little bit of air in there. And now we have a standard 1022 and a Magpul stock. She's now set up with a nice Weaver rail. And that bolt cycles fully, so we know we didn't hammer up with the front screws. So now, the next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll level out the action. Get a level on the barrel. Get her set up so that we can get our little inexpensive, remember we're doing this all on a budget, little inexpensive NC Star. Yeah, I know, NC Star. It's going to be great with a 22 long rifle, but that's what we'll go to next. So stay. Okay, so we got our scope rings on the rail, and we're going to go ahead, since these are the ones that came with the scope, I don't want to get too carried away with them. We're going to go ahead and knock these down to the same 30 inch-pounds. Once again, 22 long rifle, not too much going on there in the way of recoil. Now I'll go ahead and get these tops off. I'll get the action leveled out in the vise. Going to try to cut through this so that it's not just a bunch of boring me getting tools out of a drawer and going over it. I'm going to go ahead and get it leveled out. We'll go over it real quick. We'll get the scope in there, and we'll start to set some eye relief and set some turrets. Okay, so we got our scope in the rings just barely snugged up so that we can go ahead and get our good eye relief. And that's not looking too bad right there. Nope, that's not looking too bad right there at all. So one of the ways I like to do it is I will actually take a piece of tape and I'll get my scissors, and instead of tearing my tape, that way I got nice straight clean edges. What I'll do is I'll actually go ahead and I'll take my piece of tape and I'll put it right on the scope body, right in front of the rings. So now I know after I get my action leveled out and I'm ready to go ahead and drop my scope back in, I just put that tape right against my rings, and then I can go ahead and I can level out the turret, and then hopefully the crosshairs will be good, and we'll get this in a cross pattern tightened down to between 13 and 15 inch-pounds. Okay, so everything's all leveled. The vise is locked down. As you see, we've got level on the barrel out by the muzzle. We've got another level on the receiver. Now that I got it locked down, I can go ahead and take the one off of the receiver. like so. And I can go ahead and take my turrets off of my scope because, unlike a lot of scopes, this one, the turret is actually concaved, or it's round. So I don't want the level to try to balance on the top of that crown. But the turrets themselves are nice and flat. So I can come back in, set my scope, get it back up against my tape, like so. Get it eyeball kind of level-ish. Keeping an eye on my front level. Drop my caps back on. Remember, we're trying not to disturb anything. So now I'll cheat a little bit. I'll take my handy dandy Allen driver and I'll just slightly, ever so gently, take out the slack. But I still want to be able to turn the scope without manipulating that front bubble. I'll do the same back here. This is also going to be the beginning of getting the gap even left to right. I'll put it right about where I think it should be. I'll take my other bubble level. I'll put it right on that turret. And I will just give it a little bit of nudge. So that this bubble and this bubble are both in the center. Gap is pretty even. Give it a little bit over here, a little bit over here. Watching not to go too crazy so that I don't disturb my bubble. A little bit over here, a little bit over here. And I'll just bounce around. And because these are only 2 screw rings, I'm going to want to be careful not to get too crazy with the torquing it down all at one time. I'm going to want to keep passing back and forth, just kind of getting snug, keeping that gap in the top and the bottom between the cap and the ring itself. I just want to keep that as even as possible. And I'll literally just keep working back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then I'll get out my handy dandy fat wrench. We'll give her some power. Run her back down to... Okay, I didn't want to bore you going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for 4 or 5 minutes. So now we can go ahead and we can take our levels off. Take the rifle out of the vise and give a little look-see. And those crosshairs, and what I'm doing is I'm using a door jamb because they should be pretty well plumb. And I'm actually taking my elevation and putting it right along that straight edge best I can. And that's going to kind of give me a reference if I'm tilted left or right. It won't be perfect. But now the scope is on there. But one thing I do want to do is I will actually get out my Wheeler magnetic laser. And I'm going to put it kind of centered on the muzzle. So this is what we got now. As you can see, I got a red laser. And I'll put that red laser all the way across the room. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn the turret. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I didn't lock down the turrets. And I want to make sure that the turrets are going to move. There we go. Windage, no problem. Elevation. No problem. So not only is the scope on there, and I made sure that I can move that dot corresponding with the hash marks in my crosshairs, I can also move it left and right. So I know that the scope isn't bound with these inexpensive rings that came with this inexpensive scope. But I've also just done a quick across the room laser bore sight. So now we can take off our masking tape. We can put our turret covers back on. So two things. One, we don't mess up a turret. And secondly, we don't lose a cap. But now, she is the little 1022 that could. So in the span of about, I give it 30 minutes, 35 minutes playing with cameras, getting tools out and everything. Another 10 minutes to clean up the bench. The 1022 is now in the Magpul X22 flat dark earth stock. And she's ready to head out to the range and start putting some rounds down range to get that 0. And then shoot against my buddy with his Savage B22. Ruger 1022, actually, I think it's going to do a lot better than expected. Everybody stay tuned for that one. We'll catch you again later. As always, hydrate.